All right, and so our big main deep dive topic, I'm just hitting all the keywords that we have for this week's episode, is actually a pretty cool one. Polaris announced their scientific their science experiments for their Dawn mission, which is, I think right now, Q1 Q2 area. I think Q2 of next year is what they're aiming for. There are 38 projects they're going to be working on from
How long are
23
they going to be up
partners.
there?
Probably a week or so.
Wow, that's a lot for that amount of time.
Week and a half, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure that's.
Feels like a lot.
They were up there for like 3-4 days on Inspiration 4.
Yeah.
And so they're going higher. They're doing
That was just
more.
for Instagram, though.
They actually did a lot. Okay, so here's the interesting about this. I'm like, so there's you have Axiom, you have I'll just call it Isaacman Space Incorporated, Inspiration 4 Polaris, and you have Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. Those are kind of like the private tourism type thing. I mean, you could technically call, I can't remember what it's called, Space Adventure, I think the company's called, the company that works with Russia for crude launches. And they've had MZ, who's the guy who's going to be doing DM Room with Starship, and then had the Run Russian thing, some Russian movie actress and producer that flew up there. SpaceX's ventures, Axiom and Polaris / Inspiration 4, they've really been pushing like the science stuff. Like that's kind of like their goal. Like they're not like when they go up there, like they're not like going up there for fun. I mean, Axiom 1 was a lot of outreach and science experiments. And Inspiration 4 was a lot of outreach and science experiments. I think more so on the outreach side of things. So for that, Polaris Dawn's kicking off with a lot of science. Like that's their main thing. It's just kind of like being the 60s NASA, but for a private industry, I feel like. Pushing what's possible and trying to just kind of do a lot of things. When they with the spacewalk, they're kind of plan, and then the kind of some of the experiments. So there's, I mean, looking at some of the here's I'll put a list down of some of the major partners that they're working with: Baylor College of Medicine, Embry-Riddle, John Hopkins, NASA, SpaceX, apparently, and then Air Force Academy.
Nice.
All those are kind of like, those are kind of the big names. There's like 23 in total. We'll list them all off, but those are kind of the big ones. The interesting thing, though, a lot of the experiments, there's a lot of medicine. So it sounded like a lot of the experiments we're looking into are going into health for long-term astronauts stay up in space. That's kind of what a lot of it. I feel like the ISS, NASA says a lot of the work is being done for long-term space exploration, and a good amount of the work is being done for that. But there's a lot of like little things, like just kind of like, oh, let's understand how fire works in space. Let's understand this, which I guess I think all has probably ties back into long. You kind of want to know how fire.
Sure.
You kind of want to know how fire works in space in case of a fire on the way to Mars, but. You know, this stuff though is like a lot of like looking into SANS, which is something I didn't even know existed before I read this, is spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome. I think I got that right. And if I did, all right. Pat myself on the back for that one. It's pretty much astronauts get it after long stays in space, and since
it's like
their
space
term
jet
of
lag.
It's more like space blindness. I don't know how to put it, but not blindness,
all right.
But
not to downplay it. All right.
Yeah, it's like I don't think we've ever heard from any astronauts going like having any serious issues out of some space flight. We've seen Scott Kelly, or was it Mark Kelly? I think it was Scott Kelly did the 1 year in space. We had several other astronauts who've done like long term, but when I think for SANS, long term for SANS, it's like 5 weeks. So that's since the 1990s we've been going to the space station. That's like every astronaut pretty much has been like, except for the shuttle area where they just went up and down for sure, but like any ISS rotation has been considered long term from now on. I think we need to probably change to that term. Like, what is an actually long term space flight now? I feel like 6 months is no longer considered long term. That's like that's the standard at this point, even in China. Like China
Mhm.
had short-term space flights because they were doing like a month or 3 months. Now they're doing 6 month stays. So whatever, that's a whole other topic. But pretty much what it's like, increased pressure on your eyes, so they can lead to like nearsighted issues, headaches, and a few other kind of like just nasty kind of like symptoms. And I don't think there's really a cure for it. I think
I'm
it
just
might just
Dude, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Going back to my hot take last week, does space suck?
yeah,
Doesn't seem like anything's fun.
yeah.
I mean, I wonder, like, I guess staying out there, you if you just stay there, you won't
I
experience
don't
things,
think
right?
this is like it doesn't, it obviously doesn't end careers, because we've seen people
No,
go
no,
up
this
for
seems like
several times in a row. It seems like something that's like it sucks for a while, and you
yeah,
live with it, you learn to live with it, and you move on.
yeah. It seems
And I
like
know,
it's closer to like some of the stuff that happens after diving, like some of the
mhm,
decompression or the
decompression sickness or whatever it's
yeah,
called, or yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
I'm
don't know how
definitely
long. I didn't do a
not
whole
a
lot of
diver,
research into
so
this because I was reading up on the other experiments, which about like 2/3 from them had sands written in them. So kind of like, I heard sands, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
they're doing something with their eyes. Okay, whatever. A lot of them are going to be on sands, like everything from Baylor to NASA to SpaceX stuff. Like everything's like, there's at least like one per group that like had
yep.
sands in them, which is really, really interesting. I didn't even know this was a big thing until this. Um, so that's, they're trying to learn like how it starts, what are the effects, when does it start affecting you? Because I guess they don't really know that part. They just kind of like
Mhm.
when they return, it kind of looks like that. Um, Another thing that Baylor's doing, they're doing lumbar punctures.
Hmm.
Um, I googled that, and that looks like it hurts.
That sounds awful.
It's I'm like, what's a lumbar puncture? I mean, maybe like they're sticking
Starting
something
with
in
the
someone's,
football team.
maybe they're sticking something with like the back, and like, oh yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
straight. Yeah, so they're all getting a lumbar. Like, so it's not exactly sure where this study kind of like goes in with everything. They're going to study stuff, obviously. So that like before launch, like as late as they can before launch, so before suit up, but after, maybe they arrive. I don't know when they're going to do
Mhm.
this. They're going to do like, they're going to put a needle in their back, and like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. They grab stuff out of them, or they put things into them, or they test something. I don't know what they do. They're going to be doing that, before launch. So that's interesting. Um, uh, Again,
Spinal Tap in space.
I don't know if they're gonna do that in space. I think they're gonna do it before they launch. I
That
don't know
was
if
a
they're gonna
bad
do it.
joke,
And
man.
maybe they do it like right after. Yeah.
That was a bad joke. I was referring to the band.
Oh, sorry, man. That went over my head.
Yeah, I'm old. All
um,
right, next.
all right. So, I think this one goes down for the best and worst acronym. I remember
Llamas.
Marina from the Atlantic tweeted that acronyms are getting out of hand with this one. It's called Llamas, and it's just literally looking at more astronauts in space. Um,
You're right.
It's the
Let's talk
best
about
and
acronyms.
worst. It's the best and worst acronym I think out there.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
bad.
the thing is, I think it's going to be the one that they like. I think we'll be most interested in, is because it's a student built camera, new camera, to capture their spacewalk, an immersive way to capture. I think they use the word immersive in there. And I mean, we're both camera nerds.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
feel
say.
like
Let's just jump to the camera. What kind of camera are we talking about here?
well, it sounds like they're building their own. It's gonna be a special purpose built camera just for
Yep.
this. So they're probably gonna be grabbing. I mean, they're probably not gonna be building this sensor. They'll probably grab sensor from like Sony or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Right.
I can't remember who else. Like, doesn't Samsung make sensors as well? Like cheap sensors. I'm sure they'll probably grab like cheap sensors from some like smartphone
Mhm.
or something like that. My bet is gonna be 360, 100%.
Mm,
They said immersive,
yeah,
hand in hand goes with like 360 camera or VR.
I
Um,
got an idea, guys. We want to
okay.
make everybody on Earth experience the same nauseousness you experience when you're in space. So put this 360 camera in your VR setup so that you can just puke all over the place at the same time as the astronauts are puking.
That's like another thing that a lot of people are working on, like, so like space
Uh,
system, or whatever it's called, adaptation syndrome or whatever. There's another thing that like they're looking at like that, and when that starts taking over,
yeah.
because that was funny thing from Inspiration 4. They asked a question to one of the astronauts about if they're going to be able to handle launch, um and he said, he was like, well, uh they've offered me was like seasickness meds. No, like Dramamine.
Yeah.
And apparently apparently a bunch of astronauts take it, so I think I'm gonna take it. But apparently, like, I'm like,
Tough guy. I
all
think I'm
right,
gonna
yeah,
take it.
I think I'm gonna take it. It was kind of funny about that. So like, that's what a lot of things that they're studying. Like, they're studying a lot of like people in space. Like SpaceX is going to be doing some CPR stuff. Like,
Yeah, I
there's
mean, it
no
totally makes sense.
protocol.
There's so many more people going now, right? And especially if they
Mhm.
want to get this commercial sector down, this is a lot of stuff you need to know.
Yeah, if you're going to have a hotel up there in space, like
Yeah.
if someone has an issue, like you're going to have to do CPR, and there's currently no protocol for how to do CPR in
Yeah.
space because it's kind of understood that you're going to space, you're a physically um, healthy person, and so
Right.
you're not gonna just suddenly die. Like, I think it's a pretty self bet that you won't die in 6 months, like just while on station. So at least out of nowhere. So uh, they're gonna be looking at that. They're gonna be looking at a few other one. Just I just thought about one the whole time. I remember the saying. It just left my mind, of course. So no, it's a lot of cool things. Super excited to see this mission launch. I mean, I feel like Falcon 9 missions. Like I always like hate. I always want to go down for more like crewed missions. Then I know it's just a
In a
Falcon
Falcon
9
9.
launch.
Yeah.
I know
Like
it's
it's
just a
just like
Falcon
another
9.
Starlink. Just a
Yeah, and so I'm
Starlink.
like, I feel like I'm just going to steal a Starlink launch.
Yeah.
But no, I should go to them still, anyways. But so I'm still I'll probably go to this one. It's super awesome. Of course, the second Polaris mission is going to be, I believe, on well, a future Polaris mission is going to be on Starship, and then the second one might possibly be servicing Hubble. We talked about that a few episodes
Yep.
ago. So yeah, so Polaris
Yes.
Dawn, a lot of science being done.
Yeah. Really cool. And it's cool again, going back to a few of those episodes when we talked about Jared Isaacman. It's just he and his team are really trying to push the envelope in the private sector. So
Mm-hmm.
he seems like he's sort of geared himself up to kind of be the leading force in a lot of different areas. So
Yeah, and I mean,
really
and
cool.
Axiom's been doing cool things with their space station, but
Yep.
he's just been like forward going, like we're going
Mm-hmm.
to be doing science, and
Yep.
this is what we're going to be doing. We're not going to be going up there for joyrides.
Right.
Unlike, I mean, and I think Blue Origin, they do missions where they have scientific payloads on board,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of their missions are just joyrides for billionaires, millionaires
Yeah.
to
They'll get
go
there,
on.
man. As soon as you can start selling trinkets and books and widgets in space, it'll be good.
It'll be a whole ecosystem around Blue Origin launches. But like the
Yeah.
thing is, like Virgin Galactic like had a lot of scientific missions, like a lot of scientific like things going on their missions. So
Mm-hmm.
they had, of course, all their flights were crewed because they had 2 pilots on board, and then they had their trainers go on, and then their first one, I guess their first only operational mission with Richard Branson on board. They were all doing different types of experiments. While it wasn't just a joyride for all of them. I mean, I think
Right.
Branson's. I don't know if Branson had an experiment to do. I think he was just kind of doing a joyride.
He's
But
like,
like,
I paid for this MF.
I paid for all this. I'm enjoying my
I'm getting
time.
a seat. Yeah.
I'm gonna jam it to some music in the back, and I'm just gonna
Yeah.
sit in first class. He was the first seat up, so I guess technically that's first class. He was jamming out some music.
Yeah.
Funny thing. Looking back at some of the photos, I know maybe they released some new photos recently, and that's how I saw it. It was like I noticed it like a month ago. They have AirPods. Like that's their AirPod Pros. Like that was what they were wearing in their ears for instead of like normal ear protection. I guess they were just
Yeah.
they're just wearing AirPod Pros. I'm like, that's fascinating, man. That would have been a
Yeah.
really good 95 Max story. But yeah. So but they were even doing stuff. So like I don't know. It's weird like that. I think you can do these commercial space flights
Mm-hmm.
with money from billionaires, with money from all these people, and also have it be productive for
Right.
humanity. So
Right.
I think Jared Isaacman's doing a good job at that.
Yeah. Yep. Agree.